Hello everyone. On this channel, I feel that information about what is happening in China is often not correctly conveyed to countries other than China, so I will be disseminating the information I have gathered in English. I'm getting information from multiple media, so I'd be happy if you could comment on the content of the video. Also, English is not my native language, so I use an AI speaker to create the voice to convey the information correctly. The first story is that when Chinese students enter Australia to study, they do not allow people who have undergone military training to enter. Chinese universities require military training. Therefore, when people who have graduated from university study in Australia, they basically become people who have undergone military training. The Chinese embassy in Australia is protesting against this situation to the Australian government. From this news, I personally think that the Chinese Communist Party is thinking in its own way. I would like to say that Australia should have properly investigated the source of the epidemic that spread around the world and responded accordingly. In terms of trade, China has been a big customer for Australia, but it has suffered a lot of harassment. It is strange that China wants to welcome foreign students to Australia, which has been harassed like that. It is natural that China, as a country, puts pressure on Australia, but it is not accepted if it insists only on its own rights. Until now, every country in the world has accepted a lot of international students, even though the Chinese Communist Party has a bad attitude. Looking at the recent acceptance of international students in the United States, the largest number is China. The Chinese Communist Party has criticized the United States for its poor handling of the disease. Still, the number of Chinese who want to study in the United States is exploding. The United States has said that it does not want to accept people related to the Chinese Communist Party and their families, but the Chinese are good customers because they have money. In other words, I accepted it because it was money. Therefore, the Chinese Communist Party understands that money is the purpose of the United States, and believes that money will solve any problems. However, looking at Australia's movements, it may not be like the United States. Australians are getting emotional about the Chinese Communist Party and they are going to stop accepting the Chinese Communist Party's minions. America also has an emotional part, but it is ambiguous because of the large money and economic benefits. The United States takes the attitude of accepting civilians who are not related to the Communist Party or the People's Liberation Army. Some Chinese don't want people to think they belong to the Communist Party. Some people want to live free and safe without being ruled by the Communist Party, and some believe that the communist regime will not improve them. But the Communist Party rules those who want freedom through legal and extra-legal pressures. For example, if you study abroad and send out negative information about the Chinese Communist Party while you are studying abroad, you will receive a phone call from your parents in the country. There are public security officials standing right next to the parents, and they make the children make phone calls to stop sending negative messages, and pressure them to come back from study abroad. In other words, even if you are dissatisfied with the Communist Party government and work abroad, as long as your family and relatives are in China, you will be under the control of the Communist Party. Even if you accept foreign students who are not related to the Communist Party, you can treat them the same as members of the Communist Party. There are many overseas Chinese groups, but they are largely divided into Taiwanese and mainland groups. Since Chinese diplomats back up the Continental Line gradually strengthens their influence in the United States, and as a result the Communist Party becomes stronger. Most of these overseas Chinese have the right to vote because they are American citizens. If you don't pay attention to the movement of the Communist Party, there is a possibility that it will be hijacked from within American politics. It's not just the Chinese problem. Some Americans put their own interests first and accept a large number of Chinese students. The Chinese Communist Party takes advantage of people who think like that. The question is whether Japan is okay. In Japan, the situation is even worse. In the case of Australia, we judge whether or not they have received military training, but this means that we do not accept only those who have graduated from Chinese universities. In other words, it prevents the admission of anyone associated with, or possibly associated with, the military. Next is the United States, but it is said that Communist Party officials and military officials will not be accepted. As the Communist Party of China, we are sending a lot of Chinese people to the United States, and we are working to create a good image so that people will not be alarmed. They pay large amounts of advertising fees to the mass media and establish media companies to disseminate information to the masses. Even before the Chinese Communist Party came to power in America, there are people in America who have been influential in politics. The Chinese Communist Party is also not free to operate in the United States because they fear that their vested interests will be threatened. However, in Japan, only the Songhi Shimbun is disseminating information to some extent about the threat of the Chinese Communist Party. Because the voice is small, the anti-Chinese Communist Party tone does not grow. If public opinion and trends do not raise the public voice, politicians will not be able to act, so the pressure from the business world will be stronger. It is inevitable that the voices of the business world will become stronger because there is a possibility that the economy will be sluggish if it creates headwinds against China. Information like this about how wary other countries are against the Chinese Communist Party and what specific methods they are using is useful. Politicians say that every country criticizes human rights violations and makes efforts to protect national interests, but in the end it is not possible to completely cut off the relationship because of the economic dependence. In the case of Australia, it may be that Australia no longer needs to hold back because China has refused. The Xi Jinping administration has strangled itself. What I'm trying to say is that it's good to have a relationship with China, but if your country is highly dependent on it, your country may be in danger. That's all for now. See you next time.